So we just went through some customizing of the styles and the brand of your website. So now what I want to jump into is how to set up different pages on your website. So now that you have kind of your basic brand implemented in here, you got your logo in there, you changed around some of the colors, some of the fonts, fun stuff like that. Now you're going to want to start to actually set up the navigation to your website, the different pages, if you want an about page or a pricing page or something like that. Now is when you're going to want to start really mapping that out and decide what you want there. So what I'm going to do in this video is kind of walk you through how to add a new page and the different features WordPress has built in to edit that page. Now WordPress has come a long way in their in the tools that they give you to edit the page layout and style it. And it has definitely improved a lot. Like, it is miles better than it used to be. It used to be just a basic text editor, which a lot of people still use, but now they have a feature called Gutenberg, and that is the name that they gave their own editor. So we're going to jump into that and kind of take a look at that and what you can do with it. Now, you'll remember previously I said there's kind of two different routes you can go for styling your website. There's Route 1 and Route 2. We're on Route 1 right now, and that includes styling your site with Gutenberg. But the second route will be Elementor and how to really beef up the customization of your website. And if you choose that route, you won't be using really Gutenberg much at all. But again, I still highly recommend watching this video because it is a built-in feature of WordPress. It's only going to become more prominent in WordPress as we move along. So definitely check this out. So let's jump into this. So when you want to look at your pages and add a new page, jump into your admin panel and come to the sidebar and click on pages. That'll take you to a page that lists all of your current pages. So this will apply to pages that are published and pages that are pending. So you can see here some of these pages have little tags next to them. This specifies it's a post page, front page, a draft. So you can set pages to be just a draft and that will make them not live. So that's why this says draft. And this one says front page because that's currently what we set as the front page. If you'll remember when we went through the appearance customize page in the last video. So those are just tags to kind of help remind you what these pages are for. And just a reminder, so some of these pages might be editable only through other pages. You can't come through the pages panel. So this home page, remember, we went through appearance customize, and that's where we set up all of that page content in here. If we actually were to go in the home page, you won't really see that content here because that content is edited in that appearance customize panel. And that's where you really set all of these titles and subheaders and all that stuff. So that's one tricky thing that you'll have to keep in mind when going through here. And it is totally dependent on your theme and the back end styles of your website. So with the theme that we chose yesterday, that specifies that this homepage will be edited in appearance customize. Other ones will be edited with a page editor like Elementor or other things like that. Just play around with whatever theme you end up choosing, or definitely read the documentation that comes with it, and that should really tell you where you can edit that kind of stuff. So for an example of how to set up a brand new page and really give you a good preview of what stuff looks like, we're going to just dive into the sample page. Now, this is a sample page that WordPress automatically sets up for you on a fresh WordPress install, so you should even already have this. If you don't, just go ahead and click on Add New. And that will take you to the same editor here. So you'll see up here we have our main navigation bar. On the right are all the options, and in the center is the content on that page. Obviously, this looks totally different depending on your theme. Once you actually preview the page, you can see the nav bar and the different background colors, and the title is a little bit styled differently in the footer. So what the block editor does is just strip out the actual content of that page that is specific to that page and just really gives you a narrow view of it. One thing I will recommend off the bat, so there's different views for this screen that you can customize. So if you come up to this top right bar and click on these three dots, it'll give you different options. So what I like to do is disable this full screen mode that has a check mark right now. That's what we're in right now. WordPress will automatically put you in that right away, but I'll show you what it's like without it. So this is what it's like without. I personally prefer this because I like having the same navigation no matter where I am in WordPress. I personally don't know why this isn't default, but maybe you like full screen. And if you do, that's totally fine. Definitely play around with here what you like. They also have a thing called Spotlight mode and top toolbar. You can enable that or disable that. I'll go into that a little bit more later. The other options aren't really important right now. So like I said, in here is your main content of the page. So it'll always, for every page, give you the page title up here that you can set. So we can change this to whatever we want. And there's the page title. If we update that, go back, that changed the page title. And then in here is just a different content. Now, what Gutenberg, the editor, that's what we're looking at right now. Gutenberg defines these as blocks. That's why it's called a block editor, because it basically allows you to build a page just with different blocks. So this paragraph is a block. This paragraph is a block. If I hit enter, right now I'm creating a new block. This plus button means I can add the type of block. So there are a large amount of blocks you can add. So here I'm browsing all of them. These are all different content types. So if I want just a basic text, click on the paragraph and you'll add a paragraph block. If you want a heading, click on the heading and it will pop up with different options. If you want to change the size, click on a different heading. The larger the number, the smaller it is. The smaller the number, the larger it is. You'll have to play around and kind of think about what kind of content you want to add to your page. If you want to add a table, look for a table block. So these blocks are super powerful, and these blocks didn't exist before Gutenberg. These are really nice in that they give you a good way to build out your website and an awesome way to build out what you're going to do. Now, the different types of blocks available to you really might depend on what plugins you have installed. I believe a lot of these blocks that I'm seeing right now are available to me because I installed this Orbit Fox plugin. So that plugin itself is giving me a lot of these different blocks, but WordPress itself has certain ones available built in that won't require a plugin. So like we can even come in here and put in a gallery, put in a whole bunch of images here, create a gallery, insert the gallery, and there they are. If we update, go in here, preview, here are those two images in kind of a gallery. Not really a slideshow, but it's still kind of nice. And then for each block, when you click on it, it also gives you this little toolbar that hovers above here. Now, quick note, remember back here in the options, so what top toolbar does, I'll show you really quick. If you click on that, it moves that hover bar up here. So on any block that you click on, it's always going to remain up here consistent. Kind of nice if you get kind of confused where it is and if you want it kind of more consistent. I kind of like it hovered, but play around with that, see what you like. But in this toolbar, we have different options here. Some of the more popular ones you might want are these 6 dots here. That allows you to drag the block to a different spot on the page. So you can drag it around, watch that blue line, and that will tell you where you're going to drop it. Dropped it down there. If I drag it up here, boom, there we go. That's really nice. You can also hit these arrows just to quickly move them down the page like that. These blocks are talking about alignment, so you can center it, different stuff like that. This is a media gallery. It's kind of being wonky right now, but I'll show you up here so you can center the text. Obviously, you have different standard text options, the linking options right here, stuff like that. So think about what you want on your page and how you envision it laid out. Typically, a lot of this stuff, if you're going to create more text-based stuff, is pretty easy. If you want more flashy kind of stuff, it gets a little bit harder. But like I said, there's a whole bunch of different block options that really give you some pretty awesome features to build out your page. Now, the other thing you're going to want to pay attention to on the block editor is a sidebar over here that I guess technically isn't in the block editor. This would be the block editor. But while you're setting up your page, pay attention to this page tab on the settings sidebar. And this will give you a lot of main features of your page. So if you come in here, your permalink, that is the link to your page. So if we click on that, that is the URL of the page. If I want to change that, I can't right now. If you want to change that, And I highly suggest changing. So before we can actually change that, you need to change the setup of the URLs. So to do that, we're going to go to settings. We're going to go to settings, permalinks. I'm going to leave the page because I don't care about those changes I made. And that will take you to the permalink settings page. Now, WordPress has a few different ways to set up the permalinks and automatically generate them. I would highly recommend changing this to post name. So what this will do is when you create a new page or post, it will automatically put whatever page title you create and generate a URL for it and make that the URL of the page. For SEO purposes, that is definitely the best route to go, so I definitely recommend changing to that. So we're going to save that, and we're going to go back to our sample page, whatever we want. And we're going to come over here back to the permalink section, and you can see now it gives us the option to change the URL of this page. So it used to be called sample page, and that is why the URL was generated as sample page. But now that we titled it whatever we want, we'll make the URL that. And we're going to update, go back to this page, and now you can see the URL to this page is now / whatever we want. So that's pretty cool. Definitely a feature you want to look at when setting up pages, again, for SEO purposes. Pay attention to this. Make sure it's pretty relevant to the content that you're typing. If we could keep going down this list, you'll see featured image here. What this is largely dependent on what theme you have installed. I'll actually upload one here, and this theme might do it to give you an example. All right, so here you can see I uploaded a feature image. I saved it and I refreshed. The feature image is now the background of this title. That's not a great example because it's so dark, so I'll change it to this. But you'll see the featured image appears up here in the background of the title. Now that's the most common use of featured images, is it's usually the main image of that post. It's also the image that gets shared if you share that URL, like when you're in iMessage and you're sharing a URL, it pops up with a little image. That's the image that's going to show up there. But some themes don't use this image, so it might just not show up anywhere. Sometimes it shows up at the top of the content, entirely dependent on the theme that you pick. Like I said, this is usually the most common, just behind the page title. It's kind of nice that way. Just gives the whole page kind of a nice look. But play around with the theme you install, and it might show up different places. If you don't set one, normally there's a fallback. Like you saw before, it was pink. So if we keep going down here, then that's the featured image. Discussion, you can allow or disallow comments. Again, that's kind of theme dependent, but if we turn that on, and there we go, we have some comments available, and I can leave one as me. So if we go into page attributes, normally a sidebar can be set here, and you can change that. Or if, depending on what theme you have, it might have the sidebar option somewhere else. So for my theme, we have it here under page settings. So I can change it here, update it, refresh the page, and there's my sidebar. That's the default WordPress sidebar. I'll go through how to edit this content in the next video. But that's how you can add a sidebar, change it to the right side. Boom, it's on the right side now. So that's where sidebars usually are, either in page attributes under the template. Change that. Otherwise, depending on your theme, you might have like a page settings one, like I have here, where you can set the sidebar or something like that. And then, depending again on what theme you have installed, you might get some extra options on this page. So I have an option to add header scripts or footer scripts. Obviously, that gets an encoding, so we're not going to cover that for this. Really quick, you can also set other options depending on theme, disable navigation or footer. Don't know why you'd want to do that, but you can do that with this theme. Another spot that themes might add some custom options are this bottom section. You'll see here there's some script settings. Those aren't really important. So that's kind of a big high level view of the block editor and the main built-in features of WordPress. Again, like I said, depending on what plugins and themes you all have installed, you might be seeing some extra options in here. But that should take you through a lot of the built-in functionality of WordPress. Play around with this, make the pages that you need for your website before you move on to the next few videos, because in the next ones I'm going to show you how to organize your pages in the nav bar and set up the content in the footer, which will likely include the pages that you set up. So spend some time, think about what pages you all want in your website, write up that content, or at least create the pages and title them, get the URLs put together, and I will see you in the next video to set up your menu and footer.